I set out to create this business not because I want to make a ton of money personally. I set out with this business because I love helping people.
Florida is just a haven for small businesses in the health and wellness space.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, and what do you think makes it so unique and appealing?
Can you go to a brand and trust in the fact that they're actually genuinely interested in elevating your health and they're doing all the little things on the details to help you?
That's hard because a lot of brands talk the talk, but we don't know if they're walking the walk.
Change is a constant at Vale.
Okay.
We are constantly evolving and we are listening to our guests through and through on all of our macro or micro business decisions.
If someone is watching this and they're an entrepreneur, whether it's in the F&B space or not, what would you say it was the reason for that success?
I would say don't do it. I would say do not follow in that strategy.
Why?
Because
thank you so much for being here today. I'm really
Pleasure to be here.
excited. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about, Vale, how you started. I know you just said Tallahassee, so go ahead.
yeah, my
You go.
pleasure. So I'm Sonny Ilyas. I'm the CEO, founder of Vale. We're a healthy, fast casual restaurant chain with stores all over Florida. We had our humble origins in Tallahassee, the capital, but it's a pretty small town, really centered around the university, Florida State University, FAMU. And we started out initially as a meal plan delivery business. So when I was 21, I convinced all my friends that I knew. I said, hey, there's nothing healthy in this town. Let me cook for you. I'll deliver food to you every day and have it fresh. And 20 of my friends turned into 40, 40 turned into 80. Next thing I know, I had 500 clients I was feeding every day. And
Were you at the university?
yes, I was at
Okay.
the university. I actually was a pre-med major, got my degree in exercise physiology. I was supposed to go to medical school, upset my parents on that one. But I think they're very happy now how it all turned out.
Amazing. So you started off doing the meal prep, the client base grew. At what point did you then get the brick and mortar?
I did 4 years of the meal plan business. That was kind of like my real life MBA. Like I tell people that, like where I went from learning all science and everything, like I was all science-based, learner, to then going into learning business. So I taught myself everything in business on the fly.
Yeah.
And so the meal plan business was a great kind of segue into the restaurant because I learned how everything worked and operated. And there's so much to learn before you start opening a restaurant. Even those 4 years was not even suffice. There's just an unbelievable, the learning curve is just massive.
So many moving pieces.
Yeah, so 2016 was the first restaurant
Okay, and that was in Tallahassee.
in Tallahassee.
Okay. How old were you? How did that look?
I was 25 years
Okay,
old.
and that's really young to
Yeah.
open a brick and mortar and to really say we're going to do this.
Oh yeah.
Vale was the name. Where does that come from?
So it's an old English word that meant like relating to the earth or earthly. So I really thought about it. I would always go to the same Whole Foods market in Tallahassee. I'd sit in their cafe, drinking coffee all day. And I was inspired, looking at Whole Foods. They had a lot of, kind of well-rounded values in terms of how they operate as a grocery chain. I also wanted to have something with intention and something that was, not just me selling a product to customers and users. I thought about it and I was Googling on my computer, and came to this word Vale and it said relating to the earth or earthly. And I was like, okay, well, all the food is all natural and comes from the earth. We don't want to be, sourcing anything that's artificial colors or dyes or chemicals and putting that into people's bodies. And then I said, okay, well, I know I want all the packaging to be biodegradable as well and sourcing, more sustainable materials. So that was the second part. And then when we became a restaurant chain or a restaurant, brick and mortar, then I brought it full circle where all the restaurant's design is also earth tones and colors. So when you go into any one of my stores, you'll see marble,
wood.
greenery, wood,
Yeah.
like these like natural elements. And I think in today's time, like it's super critical because you have so many people they're behind a screen, they have technology as soon as they wake up. So bringing someone back to kind of like feeling even in a earthly kind of environment feels good.
Okay, so Tallahassee is number one. You're 25 years old. Tell me your biggest success with that and your biggest failure. What did you learn? Because the first one is always the learning curve.
I learned I had a lot of confidence.
Yeah, not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing, but there's so many things that I learned from that store. I mean, I put my blood, sweat, and tears into it because that's what was required.
Yeah.
You know, ultimately, when you don't have the education, the experience, doing anything new is tough, and especially when you're on a bootstrapped budget and you only have so much financial resources. At that time, you know, even in 2016. You cannot get any funding for a startup restaurant, you know. So
you were cooking yourself still then at that point?
No, I had a team, you know, of cooks and managers and people at that point because the meal plan business had grown pretty big.
So big, yeah.
But the construction build out, you know, doing all this other stuff to get the brick and mortar open. This was all learning on the fly.
Yeah.
And every day by day, we're running out of more and more cash, you know, to even get open for business. I was very thankful that I knew my market. I knew what was my target market, and I hyper-focused on them. And from day one, we were very successful and busy with our target customers because we knew the college market was yearning for a fresh option in that market. There's so many hard lessons that I had to learn, you know, where just core disciplines of running a restaurant, you know, making sure that you're really, really focusing on not only the product, the guests, but also your people and the development part there. I only gave my staff maybe a week of training before we opened the restaurant.
Yes.
You know, and so I threw them to the wolves.
Yeah.
And you know,
sink or swim.
Yeah, exactly. So and it was very tough, but you know, in that environment, I was in the mindset of I'm going to do whatever it takes to just get open and really figure everything out. And I was just betting on the fact that, you know, over time, I'm going to be able to figure this out.
You said that at that point you were very, you know, well versed with your community, your audience. Has that audience changed as you've grown, or have you gone into this and been like, this is who we created it for? It has not changed. We're sticking to this.
No, we have absolutely changed, and change is change is a constant at Vale.
Okay.
We are constantly evolving, and we are listening to our guests through and through on all of our macro or micro business decisions. For me, my initial target customer was someone aged 18 to 24. Yeah. Whereas now, like the meat and potatoes of our business is really someone who is 24 to 44. Yeah. You know, and that is
young
our
professional.
Exactly. Young professionals who just graduated actually, and they're looking for something that they can add into their life as a healthy constant to help kind of give them back time. Yeah. I mean, we'd still focus on the 18 to 24 segment, but you know, we're not just targeting them anymore. Vale has evolved where we've created, and we are still creating, a one-stop shop for everyone for when it comes to healthy food. Yeah. So we want Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, everyone to be able to come into our restaurants and feel like they're welcome and not intimidated by health.
So that was your first location, Tallahassee. Where was location number 2?
Gainesville.
Okay.
So, you know, for me, I always had this idea in my head. I was like, I don't want to get stuck living in Tallahassee for, you know, it's a small town, and I just knew, I was like, I had a lot of big ambitions. I need to grow. And I saw the initial success in Tallahassee. I said, you know what? Let me go 2 hours south to Gainesville. I think I can replicate the success there. So that's why I went there.
And then Gainesville. And then from Gainesville, give us a run through on your fingers of all of the spots in order. Do you know them?
Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah. So after Gainesville, 6 months after Gainesville, I went to downtown Tampa. That was my taste of my first metro market. Right away, same thing. You know, the word of mouth spread very virally from the University of Florida and Florida State graduates in that market, letting everyone know. And we were slammed from day one. Then I went and opened up in Jacksonville, Florida in 2018. That was a new frontier, new market. But for me, when I visited Jacksonville, I saw so much boom and potential. Yeah. And I was like, man, it doesn't feel right to skip this and go to another market, go to South Florida yet. So we opened there. We love that market. It's a melting pot, you know, city, and our guests are extremely loyal.
I've heard great things. Yes. I've heard that it's really booming, Jacksonville.
I think it is one of the most underestimated markets. You know, I think that the overall clientele there is very loyal when they find things they like.
Who would you say the clientele is there?
I mean, it's the art, like where we are positioned, we're kind of in between a working professional community, new like university students, an arts community and also a huge medical community. So for us, it's like win, 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 win.
Yeah.
And we're getting so much diversity.
Doctors, they don't want to cook. They're working long hours. They want to be healthy.
Yeah.
So Jacksonville, and then you made your way down south.
Yep. So then in 2019, I opened 2 units. I opened another one in Tallahassee, and then I opened one in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
You know where we are today? Yeah.
That's the one I frequent. That's
exactly.
That's my
your
store.
go-to.
Yeah. The mac and cheese, it's a good one.
I mean, we've got all the goodies there.
We actually do our staff catering, by the way, from
really?
you guys. Yeah. Every time we do our teacher trainings or staff events, we do your catering. So
Wow, love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. We're going to keep them nice and healthy.
Yeah.
You know, and I always preach that for so many businesses and corporations is that our catering is like, you know, your employees' wellness, you know, and it's so critical to give your team food that's going to keep them nourished and focused and excited to be, you know, working with you. But yeah, we opened there, and then so I went from 1 to 6 units in 3 years.
That's
of the
huge.
first concept ever being alive.
Yeah.
And I did it on a very bootstrap approach.
if someone is watching this and they're an entrepreneur, whether it's in the F&B space or not,
Yeah.
how?
To go from 1 to
how to
6?
6 in 3 years? Because that's two a year, every 6 months.
Yeah.
What would you say it was the reason for that success?
I would say don't do it. I would say do not follow in that strategy.
Why?
You know, because of it is a very unorthodox approach to growth, especially when it comes to like any restaurant or brand. You know, typically the right approach would be you cluster effect. You know, where like you're opening up in a denser area, and you're not just opening up one unit, you're opening up a few. So like we're the only metro market in Florida that we're not really in is Orlando. Our plans when we go to Orlando is we're not opening one unit, we're going to open 2 to 3. So that way we have a cluster and we get more widespread, you know, kind of brand awareness and market share right away.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that my approach to growth and how I went from 1 to 6 isn't orthodox, nor will I advise it. You have to have an unbelievable like stress threshold and really like grit and tenacity to be able to push through that. And spreading yourself thin in the beginning of any business is tough, because what that's going to come with is just so much friction within your organization. When you don't have infrastructure and bandwidth, it's just so much tougher for you as a young organization. And all of that can be diverted if you
Just
focus
stick
on that
to one
cluster
area
effect.
and then do the spider web effect from there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Even though it was like crazy and wild and you did it, what do you think you can, say was the reason for the success of Vale growing? Where was that gap in that market that made it
I
so
think
popular?
it was really like, the majority of big restaurants, traditional restaurants, they're run by relatively like older demographic, and they were out of touch with what Gen Y, Gen Z wanted in the sense in healthy food and healthy convenience.
Yeah.
So for me, I was looking at it as like, no restaurant is solving this. Chipotle has a very, focused Mexican offerings, but it's quite limited. You cannot go there every day because
have
then
something
you
different. Yeah.
Exactly, and have something different. So someone has to solve this problem of making food healthy, convenient, affordable with variety.
Yeah.
So those were the 4 pain points that I wanted to solve.
You have how many locations now?
10.
10 locations. Do we have any in the pipeline?
Yeah,
plans?
I have many in the pipeline. I mean,
Within
for me,
Florida?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm hyper focused on Florida. I think Florida is one of the best places to do business. And also, I cannot tell you, hey, we're, what I just said about growing in scale, and then say, hey, we're going to New York, we're going to Michigan, we're going here.
So you're staying true to that.
I love the fact that my infrastructure is here, my personnel is here, my corporate team. That way we can dominate for our guests here locally. And that's what we know 100%, that if we open up store number 11, 12, 13, or even 20, 25, we believe that we can have 25 stores in the state of Florida. And beyond that, sure, then we'll start to scale when we're ready. But our infrastructure will be able to tell us when we are ready.
We're seeing the same thing currently in the fitness space, where Florida is just a haven for small businesses in the health and wellness space.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, and what do you think makes it so unique and appealing?
I think the energy in Florida is different because I've lived in Tallahassee, Jacksonville, Tampa, any market that I have a Vale, I've lived in that market. And I can tell you that the energy in Florida is different when it comes to like health, wellness, and fitness. You know, it's not just one or the other. It's a totality. You know, everyone here is, you know,
Embodying it.
yeah, they're focused on elevating their health in some sort of capacity. And you can't help to recognize it because even people who move here from other states, they come here and they say, man, you can feel like everyone here is active.
Yeah.
And that there's an energy effect with that where people feed off of that.
Yeah.
You know, when I moved to Brickell, Miami, something that I felt was, wow, everyone is working out constantly.
Yeah.
You know, here, even myself, when I lived in Fort Lauderdale, I was active, I was working out, but then I found out, oh, wow, I can really get even higher and more active because I saw, you know, a lot of people doing it. So it was inspiring as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes to managing your businesses, what would you say is the biggest takeaway for young entrepreneurs? Like if they want to get into the space and they really want to make it work, what is that one thing that you would say is going to set you apart from all your competition?
I mean, it comes down to two things. I mean, if you're asking me about, I mean, in general, if you're a young entrepreneur and you want some type of advice, I mean, your product better be proprietary. It better be unique, you know, to its own to be able to stand against behemoth competition.
Yeah.
If you're a coffee vendor and you're trying to create the new, you know, coolest latte art or whatever, you know, concept there is, like matcha right now is having a huge moment. You better be able to have some sort of proprietary edge that's going to be able to compete even with the Starbucks and these other big behemoths of the world that will allow you to attract that clientele and that base to grow your business. But I'm always leaning into proprietary. I think that is one of the biggest reasons why any business is successful. Like, why does someone purchase from Apple, you know, for a reason is because they have a proprietary edge, whether it's the iMessage or the actual user interface of their iOS, you know, people like that and they just stay loyal to that. So for me at Vale, like we're always leaning into proprietary, whether it's on our recipes or just getting into every single granular detail of how we can separate from our competitors. That is what we believe is going to be the differentiator as we continue to scale. So I would tell them that. And then the second thing, if you're growing a business, I mean, I would say it's all people. Yeah. You know, my business no longer relies on me inside of a kitchen, inside of my four walls of my brick and mortar. It's all people. So, and I wish I learned that sooner because the best teams win. Yeah. It's as simple as that. Yeah. And I wish I would have paid people more that were really, really excellent and could have helped me in that startup phase, in the early days, because I really could have used it. Yeah. And you don't realize, like, wow, that individual actually pays for themselves.
Yeah,
if they provide
that's great advice because a lot of people, they've got the greed mindset, right? Yeah. They're in that early growth mindset. They're like, we need to cut the budgets. We need to, you know, make sure that, you know, we've got so many like overheads. But what you just said is that your people are going to take you to that next level. And so you have to take care of them to make sure they get you there. Of course.
And great people will pay for themselves. Yeah. Like everyone on my corporate team pays for their own overhead. Yeah. Like, you know, they're not a net expense to this company or to us as an organization. And they bring so much tertiary value that I'm so happy to pay them what I pay them because they're worth every penny. Yeah.
So when you hire, you're looking for someone, what do you look for?
You know, there has to be some sort of like, not grit factor, but desire to grow. Yeah. For me, I always say it all the time in every single one of my interviews, whether it's a team member or a manager, I only want to work with people who want to grow. Because in my opinion, my number one job as a leader is to grow my people. Yeah. No one should work with me if I'm not reciprocating to them and providing them growth. Yeah. So for me, I gladly put that pressure on my shoulders because I want to create a culture where I have people who want to grow
and expand.
And I was messaging, you know, one of my cooks over the weekend and, you know, he expressed he's interested in growing. I said, look, I'm going to do everything in my power to help you grow. Yeah. You know, let's continue to, you know, trust the process, work towards our goals, and we'll be able to get you where you need to be.
So talking on growth, what is your personal sort of growth plan? What does that look for you? Like your dream, you know, the apex of your growth?
It really comes down to the fundamentals of like, why are we doing what we're doing? I set out to create this business not because I want to make a ton of money personally. I set out with this business because I love helping people. My roots have always been really rooted in helping hospitality, but also even before that with pre-med. When I was going and I wanted to be a doctor, it's because I wanted to help people.
Yeah.
So if I can help nourish communities around America where we are at the most rampant obesity rates that we've ever been at, we have so many chronic, health diseases that are running rampant, around the nation. I would love to be a factor in cleaning up our communities, providing nourishment, providing healthy food that's not going to intimidate, people, or leaving any type of demographic, out of it.
Yeah.
And for me, what the pinnacle looks like is I want to open up at least 75 to 100 units, take the company public, and continue to scale and be a part of the movement that actually makes America healthy again, per se, and spreads what health really means. And everyone has a different definition for health, but for me, it's, can you go to a brand and trust in the fact that they're actually genuinely interested in elevating your health and they're doing all the little things on the details to help you?
That's hard because a lot of brands, talk the talk, but we don't know if they're walking the walk in the kitchens.
Of course.
We have no idea.
I'll be the first one to say, every brand is different. Everyone has different executive leaderships. Everyone at my company knows that every year we're trying to constantly elevate all of our ingredients, in some sort of way or form, get better for our guests, because we look at it as our guests as our shareholders. We want them to have the best quality that they can. And that's how we run our organization. But it's also one of those things where we want to make sure that, from a transparency standpoint, we're also providing what they need to know. So we've cooked our food in extra virgin olive oil, our bakery lines, and using coconut oil. All of our meats are antibiotic and hormone free. We work with a farm that makes sure that even the chicken is no antibiotics ever. Wow. So even from when it was a chick, it never received any injections of antibiotics. And we use filtered water and the cooking practices. So even the water that's going into your rice is filtered water. Wow. So you're not getting trace chemicals from the local water supply into your food and then in turn into your body. Yeah. So for us, we do all those things, but I do that because this has been my foundational, passion for years. And so many people tell me, man, you should market this. You should tell people more. And I'm like, I eat the food every day. Yeah. You eat Vale every day? I eat Vale every day for lunch. Yeah. It's my constant. For dinner, I'll cook at home, or for breakfast, I'll cook something, small at home. But my lunch is Vale every day, and I love it. And I'm never bored of my own food because
how often do you change the recipes? Talking on that, because I know there's a big variety.
Every 6 months, we have a menu switch. So we're actually about to switch over to where we have a fall menu. So we're going to be featuring some different flavors of chicken, some different proteins on the line, some different carbohydrates, some different seasonal veggies. And we're really hyper-focusing in on, from a supply chain standpoint, what is going to be the best for our guests too. Yeah. So for us, when it comes to produce, we'd like to work with produce that's in season. Yeah. That way we can also get products that are abundantly more nutrient dense, reducing the amount of time it takes to get that product from farm to table, but also just working with things that are going to really excite our guests as well from not seeing the same menu year round. Yeah.
Because I noticed that with Vale, every time I go, there's something else, right? Yeah. It's not like the same menu every time, or there's a different option, whether it's a different protein or a different, that's what I love about you guys, is the variety. Yes. And like you said, the convenience and the health and all of it together is just such a great concept. What would you say is the hardest lesson that you've learned doing this? What was the biggest failure that turned into the biggest lesson?
I mean, it goes without saying, but COVID was insane because, we went off this huge momentum of 2016 to 2019.
And that big growth.
Opening six. Exactly. Yeah. It had 6 units and then boom. Yeah. 75% revenue drop. Shit. Overnight. Yeah. So, at that moment, you have everyone in your company looking at you for answers. We're still considered, I would say, a startup in that mind. I had a general manager for one location. He quit immediately when COVID happened. He's like, look, I've got 5 kids. I got it, I can't be around the public. Obviously, with a lot of the misinformation and information in general, I don't fault him at all. Yeah. But it created strain on us as an organization. I now had a store that didn't have a manager. It just happened to be coincidentally that my vice president and we had parted ways in February.
Wow,
the
so
later,
it was like
right
everything at
before.
once. It was like,
So then I was pretty much left to kind of man everything. And I had to navigate that with solidarity to make sure that one, I can keep my team focused, but also what I did was I really, for the first time, I was actually able to pause.
yeah.
I was actually able to think about where should I be focusing my time, energy, and efforts that's going to be the greatest impact for my guests and to the organization.
And
So,
what was that? What was that answer that you?
I mean, for me, it came down to like unraveling the onion and getting behind every layer of everything. Because when I went from 1 to 6 stores, that was just
You
blitz
don't have
scale.
time to really like soak it all in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just running, sprinting.
Yeah.
And so then I was able to get curious and start unraveling everything and looking at where were our deepest weaknesses.
Yeah.
But one of the proudest things that I did during that time is that all the managers that did stay on, we kept paying them. We didn't make anybody take a pay cut. We didn't make anyone, have to do anything like crazy, working 70 hours a week or anything like that.
You were able to.
We did our very best to navigate that time, and we got better, and we came out of COVID roaring.
Yeah.
2021, 2022, 2023, our sales grew tremendously. And now today I can say that while COVID in the moment was extremely disastrous, it was an unbelievable setup to get us to where we are today.
Future plans. What is on the radar? Anything that you can share? Anything exciting in the works?
Yeah.
What's going on at Vale HQ?
You actually just led me right to my next statement. We used to have a corporate office in 2019. I shut it down. It was in Tallahassee at the time. We're now opening a corporate office in Miami.
Nice.
So we'll be opening a corporate office down here. We're going to be able to really lean back into some of our original roots of the meal plan business. We also have a supplement business alongside Vale, where we have Vale supplements, where we have protein powders, collagen, colostrum. We're coming out with a greens powder. We're coming out with an electrolyte powder.
Amazing.
And we're going to be doing nationwide shipping for all of those lines. So we'll have that house out of our corporate office. And we're really just doubling down on the state of Florida. We have some exciting new opportunities that I can't talk about right now, but we are going to be, continuing our scale, but we're really hyper-focused on Florida in totality, where we believe that the next 15 units will be in the state of Florida.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm wishing you all the best, and thank you so much for coming. And
of course.
I can't wait to see you guys take over the country.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely need it. And, thank you so much for having me. To me, spreading the word and gospel of health, wellness, and everything in between. It's so critical because even as, business owners.
Yeah. Taking care of yourself,
taking care
right?
of yourself is so critical.
It's like the shoemaker's child doesn't have shoes.
Yeah.
It's like I'm selling health and wellness, but there's some days where I'm like, I didn't work out today.
Well, you tell me, what are you doing for your health?
Well, that's the thing. I try to do Pilates, but sometimes you're in front of a computer the whole day and you're like, I didn't take a class today. I didn't, have that moment for myself, where when you're scaling so fast and so big, like you said, with the doctors or whoever your community are, it's so important to take that time for you. So you guys are doing a really great job in, providing that for your clients and for Florida. And can't wait for you to tell me off podcast where you're opening next.
I will.
We'll follow you. Because we're there.
Yes,
we're
exactly.
your neighbors, literally.
I know, it's perfect. Yeah.
So
I mean,
maybe if there's a space, we'll just chop it up.
Well, exactly. Yeah. We'll get right in there.
Do you want to tell everyone where they can find you, your socials, and where we can order the products and supplements?
Yeah, definitely. So right now we're launching a brand new website. Right now it's under valefoodco.com, but we're going to be switching to valehealthykitchen.com. You can find me on LinkedIn at Sunny Ilyas, on Instagram as well, Sunny Ilyas. I'm usually in all of our stores, periodically, even to this day.
Nice.
I spend at least one day going to all the stores in South Florida. I'm flying up to Tallahassee on Wednesday.
Nice.
So
You're
love being in my stores and connecting with our guests. So if you see me,
come say hi.
Yes, come say hi.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Do you eat, sleep, and breathe business? Well, then this podcast is for you. I sit and talk to guests that inspire me in business, in wellness, in health. And I just can't wait to have you hear who's on the next episode, because I truly love talking to them and learning from them every single time we sit down together at this table. So if this is something that you're passionate about being an entrepreneur, about growing a brick and mortar space, an online business, a product, a concept, listen to us, subscribe below, and thank you for watching.